In this video, we're going to talk about how to flip vehicles, and we're going to do that by giving you some tips and tricks so that hopefully you can flip a couple vehicles on the side and make a little bit of extra cash. It's always really good to have a hobby that makes you a little bit of extra cash on the side, so let's get started. And if you want to learn how to fix your vehicle, do budget restorations, troubleshoot equipment, and all sorts of other types of garage-related stuff, be sure to subscribe to Midwest Garage so you don't miss anything. Now, this video is going to be a little bit different than the rest of mine because you're basically going to have to sit here and look at my ugly mug while I talk to you in front of the camera, rather than going around showing you stuff like in some of my other videos. But I can assure you that I have a lot of really good information in this video, so although it's boring, maybe grab a snack or sit down and do something else while you just kind of listen to this like a podcast or something. And make sure you watch till the end because I do have a lot of good information. So step one in flipping vehicles is that you want to find a desirable vehicle. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to sell it. It's common sense. So for example, if you live in an urban area, you're probably not going to want to try and flip a 1-ton dually Duramax because that's simply not what people drive in the city. You know, you'll want to find a car or something like that. Perfect example also is if you live in the sticks, you know, let's say Minnesota, the UP, Maine, don't buy a two-wheel drive pickup because people in these areas don't want a two-wheel drive truck. You need four-wheel drive in these parts. So just think about that kind of stuff when you're kind of seeking out a potential vehicle that you want to flip. Next is you want to find something that is good and reliable and safe. I harp strongly on the safe part because, funny story, I bought a cheap little grocery getter car. I didn't look it over as well as I should have. And one day my wife and I are driving down a gravel road and we're getting smoked out by dust flooding into the cab of the car because there's holes in the floor, rust holes. And so this car is not safe. You do not want to sell a car that has rust holes in the floor. And needless to say, my wife doesn't really ride in that car anymore because she doesn't want to scrape her butt on the ground when we fall through the floor going down the highway. Long story short, you do not want to be the guy that is known for selling unreliable or unsafe vehicles. It's just not cool. So another thing I want to touch on is legality issues when it comes to flipping vehicles. I'm not for sure on this, but I believe in most states, the maximum amount of vehicles you can register and sell in 1 year is 5 vehicles. So if you sell or register any more vehicles than that in 1 year, then you have to get a dealership license or something like that, and you're taxed differently and everything is different. So I'm not a legal expert or anything, so do your own research on where you live and find out what is legal, because you don't want to be breaking the law when you're doing this either. You want to keep this a fun and hopefully lucrative hobby where you don't have to worry about legal issues. Now, there are loopholes when it comes to these legal issues also. Let's say you register some vehicles in your wife's name and not yours, so then you can get past the 5 per year. Not a good idea. I'm not going to tell you what to do or how to run your life, but I'm just letting you know that I wouldn't look for loopholes like that because you can just end up getting yourself in trouble. Another side note is to keep track of your finances, and this goes for everything. If you change the oil, keep track of how much the oil filter costed. If you have to replace a light bulb in a blinker, keep track of that, because at the end of the day, the reason you're flipping vehicles is to hopefully make a little bit of a profit. So keeping track of all these expenses right from the start is really going to help you know exactly what you need to sell a vehicle for to at least break even. Now, to finally get into the actual flipping of the vehicle, there are, in my opinion, 4 things that are the absolute most important things in flipping a vehicle. And those are honesty, safety, perception of value, and marketing, proper marketing. I'll get into examples of all of these in the video. I'll try to speed this up because I don't want to bore you. I know my voice is a little bit monotone. Sorry, not sorry. So you're going out, you find a vehicle that you like, that you think you can flip for a profit, so you go and look at it. The first things you're doing are you're ensuring that the vehicle is safe. If it's not safe, then don't buy it. Just walk away. So you want to make sure it's safe by making sure it's not rusted out, checking the frame, making sure the brakes are solid, you know, the brakes work, the lights work, everything like that. Make sure the floor doesn't have holes in it. Checking the steering linkage, stuff like that. All the things that you should be checking when you're test driving a vehicle anyway. If you don't feel safe in it, then you shouldn't even consider trying to sell it to someone else. You also want to make sure that it runs good and that there are no major issues. Unless, of course, you are going into this knowing that there's major issues and you're able to fix those and still create a profit. If you have any question whatsoever or don't trust your gut instincts, then just walk away from it, because human instincts are usually pretty spot on, and if something's telling you that it's not right, then it's probably not. So even if it's safe and runs good and has no major issues, you're still not sure if it's the exact vehicle that you want, because there's a couple other things you want to look for. You want to look for hidden value in the car, which I'll talk about in a second with my brother's truck, and you also want to look for an opportunity to haggle the seller down a little bit, because the whole purpose of this is to potentially make money, and the further you can haggle down the seller without ripping them off, of course, is good for you, because then that's that much more money that you don't have to make up in selling the vehicle, which means potentially more profit for you. This is all common sense stuff, by the way. I just like to list everything out for you in case there's something that you may not have thought of. So once you haggle down to the price you want and you pay the guy or girl for that vehicle and you drive it home, the very first thing you want to do is take that title and register the vehicle under your name with the DMV. The reason this is the first thing you want to do is because oftentimes it takes quite a while for the title to actually get back to you, and you can't sell that vehicle unless you have the title in your name. So the longer you're waiting for that title, then the longer you're sitting on the vehicle without making a profit on it or being able to sell it. So once you have the vehicle, it's yours, you've registered it. The next thing, and the very first thing you want to do, is a very deep clean on the vehicle. Cleaning the vehicle and shampooing the interior and doing a full detail and throwing a coat of wax on it adds instant value. You'd be surprised at what a vehicle can look like before and after a good cleaning. And you want to do this deep clean to add value to it and add that really good first impression, because nobody wants to buy a dirty vehicle, which is also something you want to look for when buying the vehicle. Is if it's dirty, just know that there's potentially paint issues and stuff like that. So just something to keep in mind if you're buying a dirty vehicle. It's a good haggling tactic. So after giving it a very thorough cleaning, you want to add other aesthetics to the vehicle and just make it aesthetically pleasing. So that way you get a solid first impression when it's time to sell it. Doing this means getting rid of some of the surface rust. If the headlights are hazy, buffing those out, polishing them up real nice so the headlights are nice and bright and shiny. Buffing the paint, getting rid of any marks or anything like that. Maybe doing some touch-up paint in areas, which you can do with a simple rattle can. And you just want to look for any other easy free fixes and start off with that. The easy and the free fixes are going to add that instant value to it with nothing coming out of your pocket except time. So using this truck as a quick example, it runs good and it's safe. It's rust free for the most part, except the cab corners, which is typical for a 1980 Chevy. To add instant value and get that perception of value, the paint could be buffed, get rid of the rust on this bull bar, obviously a deep clean. The inside can definitely be detailed. That'll add instant value. Shampoo the seats, make sure all the windows are clean. Very simple things. Could even put a new liner on the floor. And like I said, the tires are good. It's rust free, all the lights work. So he could sand this down and repaint the bed. Could even rhino line it. Could restore up these toolboxes. Could replace the floorboards on the bed if you wanted to add a little bit of value, if it's worth it. When it comes to marketing, definitely advertise the PTO and the hydraulic pump. Make sure all the lights work. A big part of that is making sure these work lights up here are good to go by rewiring these. Maybe fixing the dent in the fuel tank if he doesn't sell that separately. Just things like that to add instant value without doing too much work to the point where it's not worth flipping it. After that's all done, you want to fix some of the bigger issues if possible. So getting rid of any lights on the dash. You don't want to sell a vehicle that has, the check engine light on. That's an instant red flag for somebody trying to buy the vehicle. If there's imperfections in the paint and you have the means and the capabilities to buff that out, definitely do that. Replacing body parts, replacing parts on the engine, getting rid of engine leaks is extremely important, changing drive belts, stuff like that. Also, unless the vehicle comes with a full service history, you're going to want to change all the fluids, and it's probably not a bad idea to do a tune-up on it either. And remember, while you're doing all of this, you want to make sure that you're logging all of your work and you're keeping track of all the expenses. That way, when it's time to sell the vehicle, you'll have all this information on all the stuff you did to it, and then logging the finances is going to help you pick the price so that if somebody's trying to haggle you down, you know where your bottom dollar is so that you can still make some money or at least break even. So I know in this video I'm not going over specific fixes, but hopefully this is outlining the thought process you need to go through while flipping a vehicle. Also, I have a ton of how-to videos on this channel, so make sure you check them out. They could help you when it comes to flipping vehicles. Some of the more specific videos on how to get rid of rust, how to restore old paint, bring it back to new, stuff like that, I'll link down in the description. So definitely check them out after this, because they'll be able to help you add that perception of value to a vehicle so that you can flip it for more of a profit. Now, as you're doing these fixes, what you want to do is keep the vehicle drivable if possible. And you want to be driving the vehicle. After all, it is yours. You want to get to know it. And any issues that the vehicle has, they're probably going to pop up within a week or 150 miles, something like that. But you want to drive it pretty extensively so that you don't have any unknown issues pop up out of nowhere during the test drive or after you sell the vehicle. And of course, you want to fix those issues if they do come up. So once again, fix things, drive it for a week before you post it online or try to sell it. Another very important thing to remember is don't modify the vehicle to your liking. Just because you like it doesn't mean that other people will. Let's say you had a really nice car that you want to sell, but you put one of those stupid fart pipes on it. That's probably going to turn away a lot of potential buyers. So don't modify anything to your liking. Keep it very broad and pretty much stock if possible so that you can keep the amount of interested buyers at a higher number without trying to appease one certain type of thing that people like about a vehicle. Now, the last step is once everything's fixed, you've driven it for a week or two, all the issues are gone, and you're confident that it's a safe and reliable vehicle, now it's time to get ready to sell it. And this is where proper marketing comes into play. So what I mean by proper marketing is being honest, like we said, is one of the 4 things that are most important. And remember, those were honesty, safety, perception of value, which we've done by doing the deep clean and detail and making sure that everything is reliable. That's the perception of value right there. And proper marketing, which is where the first impression and the perception of value really come together. So when it comes to proper marketing, one example of that is the truck that my brother bought has all sorts of cool things that the seller didn't even talk about in the ad, and so he didn't get what he wanted for it. I mean, this truck has a full hydraulic system, a hydraulic pump and PTO, and when you first look at the vehicle, and nobody would have known that unless they actually came and looked at the vehicle and realized that, hey, this would make a perfect work truck for a farm, or something like that. And so he listed it for $2,500, but since he didn't mention those things, he ended up only getting $1,500 for it. So along with that, when it comes to marketing and writing out your ad, you want your ad to be very detailed. You want to have at least 10 pictures. And you want to be as honest as possible in the ad. You want to list the cons with the vehicle, but focus on the pros. You don't want to only put the pros in your comments or in your ad and then have people show up to realize there are certain issues wrong with it that they didn't know about prior to that, and they end up walking away because of it. So you want to be upfront and honest and list everything out in your detailed ad. Now, I said that you want to have at least 10 pictures, and that's from every angle, the interior, the dash while it's running to make sure there's no lights on. You want to be as detailed as possible. And another important thing about pictures is you want to make sure you have a good background in your pictures also. And this is something that my wife had mentioned to me about my videos on this channel was I would have a lot of crap in my shop at times, and all that junk is sitting in the frame behind me while I'm making this video, and it just looks kind of crappy. Even though the quality of the content was the same, the value was just not quite there because all of the crap behind me. And so that's something I changed, and now looking back, I think my videos actually are better because I'm aware of what's in the background. Same thing goes for when you're posting your pictures of your vehicle. You don't want a really nice vehicle sitting somewhere like in an alley or something like that. You want to have a nice background in the pictures because once again, it goes back to that perception of value. So once you have all of your pictures and your detailed ad and all of that stuff, you want to post it in multiple locations. Craigslist is an obvious one. Also on Facebook, they have that marketplace thing, or sell and swap. Post it on those, put an ad in the paper if you want. But the more you spread the message about this vehicle for sale, the faster it's going to sell because it only takes one buyer. When it comes to picking the price, I highly recommend going on NADA Guides or Kelley Blue Book and seeing what the vehicle's worth originally and be honest about the condition. You want to price it fairly, but you also want to try and make a little bit of a profit off it. At the end of the day, if you spend too much money fixing it up and you're not going to make a profit, at least be honest about that when you're talking to someone face to face, when they're coming to look at the vehicle, and let them know, hey, I put this much money into it, so that's what I'd really like to get. I can't go lower than this. And a lot of people would be understanding and accommodating of that. But you want to do a little bit of math. You want to price it fairly so that it will sell, but you also want to make a little bit of money on the side. And then hopefully all that money that you made from this sell can go towards buying a little bit more beat up of a vehicle that can give you more of a profit. Then you can sell that for an even higher amount and then make more and more and more. And before you know it, you could have a pretty good little side business going on, as long as you're keeping it legal and you're within those legal parameters, of course. And once again, I know I say this a lot, but you want to make sure that you are honest. You don't want to be the guy that sells a vehicle to someone knowing that it's a lemon or a piece of crap, because nobody wants to be that guy. Don't be that guy. You want to have a good reputation so that if this ends up taking off and you're able to fix and sell 5 vehicles a year, people get to know that, and word travels pretty fast whether you're selling crap vehicles or not. You don't want to tarnish your reputation by selling something that's not safe or by being dishonest about something. Some people think that flipping vehicles or houses or flipping whatever you can think of is kind of a dirty thing to do, so you don't want to make it worse by being dishonest. If you're selling vehicles for a profit and you're honest and being a good person, then nobody has anything against you, and you're probably going to get more business that way because people will spread the word that you do good work. And lastly, and one of the most important things, is when it is time to sell that vehicle, after being honest and upfront with them, you want to make sure that the title of the vehicle is filled out correctly, and you want to make sure that they also date and sign that vehicle, because if they don't sign it on the spot, they could go and flip that vehicle or do something else to it while it's still technically in your name. So make sure they don't leave with the title and that vehicle until both of you have signed and dated that title correctly. Also, depending on some states and depending on where you live, you can leave the license plates with the vehicle for them to re-register, or they have to get new plates. So check on the best way to do that where you live. I would suggest that if they have to get new plates anyway, then you pull your plates off so you don't potentially get in trouble for something that they might do or an accident that they might get into after taking ownership of the vehicle. So once again, I know I'm like a broken record here, but honesty, safety, perception of value, and proper marketing is how you can get successful results in flipping vehicles, hopefully for a profit. So I used to do this fairly often, and I know some people that are getting into it a little bit, and it's just a really fun hobby that you can make a little bit of money from. So I definitely recommend it, especially if you're mechanically inclined or know at least a little bit about cars or know a little bit about bodywork. You can find really cheap deals on Craigslist or sell and swap, stuff like that, because somebody will have a fairly new car that had the water pump go out and they don't want to spend the time or money to fix it, so they're just getting rid of the car for cheap. All you have to do is grab the water pump, throw it in, and you have a nice new vehicle that you can sell. So do your research. Don't go by just what I said in this video. Do some more research and really find out all that it takes and all of that, and make smart decisions and be honest, and you can do really well with flipping vehicles on the side. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please leave a thumbs up and let me know down in the comments below if you currently or in the past have ever flipped a vehicle and what your biggest profit ever was off doing it. I'd be kind of interested to know. Please consider subscribing to Midwest Garage if you haven't already. I don't do too many videos like this. Usually they're pretty hands-on, but feel free to check out the channel and see some of the other stuff I do. I have a lot of project vehicles, some chainsaw stuff, and also how-to videos on fixing your daily driver. So if it's something you like, hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any of my content coming out or any of my future builds and projects. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.